Hello and welcome to another video on adding and subtracting fractions. And in the previous few videos we said that we could only add or subtract fractions when the denominators were the same. So at the moment with these two fractions here, because they've got different denominators, we can't just go ahead and add these fractions. We're going to have to convert them into equivalent fractions so that the denominators are the same. And the most efficient way of doing that is by finding the lowest common multiple of both of our denominators. So the lowest common multiple of 2 and 5 is 10. And if you're a bit unsure of how to find the lowest common multiple, I encourage you to watch one of my previous videos on lowest common multiple. So we can convert both fractions into equivalent fractions where both of them have a denominator of 10. So if we start with 2/5, in order to go from 5 to our denominator of 10, we just multiply by 2. So we're going to have to do exactly the same to the numerator. 2 times 2 is 4. So 2/5 is equivalent to 4/10. And now if we have a look at the 1/2 fraction, to go from 2 to our denominator of 10, this time we multiply by 5. So again, we do exactly the same to the numerator. We times that by 5. 1 times 5 is 5. So now instead of writing 2/5 and a half, we can now say that 2/5 is the same as 4/10 and a half is the same as 5/10. So now we can just add these two fractions together. So we've got 4/10 plus 5/10, and now we can just add our numerators together. 4 plus 5 is 9, so our answer is 9/10. Okay, so let's do one more example. Let's say we've got 3/10 and we want to add on 3/8, and just like before, we can't just add these numbers together at the moment because we have different denominators, so we're going to have the same denominator. So we're going to work out what the lowest common multiple is of 10 and 8. Now there are lots of different ways you can work out the lowest common multiple of two numbers. You can use the listing strategy, where you simply list out all of the multiples of both numbers, or you can break these numbers down into their prime factors and identify which of those factors are common to both numbers. I'm just going to use the listing strategy because we've got quite small numbers here. So the multiples of 10, we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I'm just going to stop there. And now the multiples of 8, we've got 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, and I don't need to go any further because now I can see that 40 is a multiple of 10 and 40 is a multiple of 8, and that is the first one that appears in both lists. So 40 is the lowest common multiple. So the lowest common multiple of these two numbers is 40. So that is what my denominator is going to be. So with our first fraction, 3/10, well, to go from 10 to 40, we're multiplying by 4, so we're going to do exactly the same to the numerator. 3 times 4 is 12. Now if we have a look at 3/8, this time to go from 8 to 40, we are multiplying by 5, so we're going to multiply the numerator by 5. 3 times 5 is 15. So now we've got 12 40ths plus 15 40ths, and now we can just add the numerators together. 12 plus 15 is 27. So we have 27 over 40, and that is our answer. Okay, so it's your turn now. Pause the video and see if you can evaluate these 4 expressions. And remember, the first step is by finding the lowest common multiple of both numbers and then using that as your denominator for both fractions. Off you go. Okay, so let's go through this together now. So we're going to find the lowest common multiple of 5 and 7, and that would give us 35. So now I'm going to turn these fractions into equivalent fractions where both fractions have a denominator of 35. So 2/5, to go from 5 to 35, we are multiplying by 7. So remember, whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do the same to the top. So 2 times 7, that gives us 14. Let's do the same with 4/7, to go from 7 to 35. Here I'm multiplying by 5. Let's do the same to the numerator. 4 times 5 gives us 20. So now we can just add these two fractions together. And 14 plus 20 is 34. So our answer is 34 out of 35. Okay, let's go on to number 2. And I'm going to change the colours this time. I'm going to use green. So first of all, we need to work out the lowest common multiple of 15 and 12. And again, I'm going to use the listing strategy here. So we've got 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. I think that should be enough. Now let's do 12. So 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 2, 24, 36, 48, 60. And yes, we can stop there because we've got 60 and 60. 60 60 is a multiple of both numbers, and it's the first one that appears, so 60 is going to be my lowest common multiple. So 4/15. To go from 15 to 60, we're going to multiply it by 4. So do the same to the numerator. 4 times 4 is 16. And for 5/12, to go from 12 to 60, we're multiplying it by 5. So 5 times 5, 5 times 5 is 25. So now we can just add these two fractions together. And 16 plus 25 is 41. So our answer is 41 out of 60. Okay, so I'm going to do this next one in blue. And although we've got a subtraction here, it's still exactly the same process. We still need to find equivalent fractions where the denominator is the same. So what is the lowest common multiple of 5 and 3? Well, that is just 15. So 4/5. What is that as an equivalent fraction? Well, to go from 5 to 15, we multiply by 3. So let's do the same to the top. 4 times 3 is 12. And now 2/3. To go from 3 to 15, we multiply by 5. So again, let's do that same to the top. 2 times 5 is 10. And now we are not going to add these fractions together, we are going to subtract them. So we just subtract the numerators. 12 subtract 10 is 2. So it is 2 out of 15. That is our answer. Okay, now the last one, I'm going to do this in a magenta colour. So let's work out the lowest common multiple of 20 and 8 first of all. And again, just like number 2, I'm going to use the listing strategy. So the multiples of 20, 20, 40, 60, 80. Multiples of 8 are going to be 8, 16, 32, 40, and yet we can stop there. So the lowest common multiple is 40. And you may be wondering, why is 24 not in this list of multiples of 8? And you would be right to wonder that, because 24 is a multiple of 8. So 24 I should have put in this list, because 1 times 8 is 8, 2 times 8 is 16, 3 times 8 is 24, and 4 times 8 is 32. I just missed off 24, but luckily for me it didn't affect the lowest common multiple. But yes, 24 should be in this list. So to go from 7/20 to something over 40, we need to multiply the denominator by 2 and also the numerator by 2. 7 times 2 is 14. And now for this fraction, we're going to multiply it by 5 to go from 8 to 40. So let's do the same to the top. 1 times 5, well, that's nice and easy. That is just 5. And again, we are subtracting the fractions. So 14 subtract 5, well, that gives us 9. So our answer is 9 out of 40. Now, before I wrap this video up, I just want to go through one thing with you. With all of these questions that we've answered, when I found equivalent fractions with the same denominator, the process I used was to find the lowest common multiple of both numbers. Now, you don't have to find the lowest common multiple of both numbers. You can find a multiple, but the reason why I encourage you to find the lowest common multiple is so that you do not need to simplify your answer when you get to the very end. When you've added or subtracted your fractions, your answer that you get will be fully simplified. If you just find a multiple and not the lowest common multiple, you will need to simplify your answer. So it just takes that last step away if you find the lowest common multiple. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video with some more fun with fractions. See you then.